Welcome back, everyone, to part 2 of my 2023 interview with Hanna McElroy. If you are enjoying this podcast, please feel free to subscribe. It lets me and Jessica know that you're enjoying it, and it's just a great way to get us out there to a wider audience. And with that, here is the next segment. I love that. So then what would be 2, the giver? Is that a more maternal instinct, or is that a protective instinct?
Yeah, and that's actually something pretty interesting. Women tend to be mistyped as 2s more often than men, obviously. And women, they're less women 8s. 8 is considered to be a more masculine, pushy, bossy, all these traditional buckets that we put men and women into. And 2s, the helper, women tend to be mistyped, but there are a lot of female 2s because a lot of women were brought up to keep their voices down, to just be there, to be on the sidelines, to be helping. And where 2s fall into trouble is because they feel like they get all of their validation out of helping people, they can sometimes become a little bit manipulative with it. So they can sometimes use their helpfulness not out of, sheer, wish to be of assistance, but actually because it gives them their own personal value.
I get that. That's interesting. And like you said, everybody has all of the Enneagram numbers in them, and I can definitely see where that would be a quality of me, though 5, I think, is my number. But I can, especially when it comes to relationships, we want to be able to pinpoint the reason that people love us and to be able to do that over and over again so that we can continuously say, well, okay, this person loves me because I'm giving this person something, or I'm being, accommodating in a lot of ways, and then to start manipulating that because it's almost like, well, do you love me? Is this kind of real? Because it's built off of like not necessarily real things, except like this imaginary exchange. So what's a 3, the achiever? Oh, you said that's your dad. Everyone's focus has got to be on your achievements, and everybody's got to see your achievements. Like this is like the trophy parent. Like you said, I want to see A+ everywhere. I want to see your book written and like posted everywhere. Or like, is that kind of thing?
Yeah. And, another point that I would make is that something that Beatrice Chestnut says is that, so many of us are walking through life like zombies. And it's the idea that this is unconscious. This isn't like, I'm not trying to manipulate you. I'm not trying to make you feel that your value is only in getting A's. It comes from, what they were taught. And it's this sort of generational trauma, the stuff we dump on our kids, our own stuff. So none of it is done with this intention of hurting anyone else. But it is when we can move from unconsciousness to consciousness, we can start to be more aware of it and more aware of how our behaviors towards other people can, sometimes not be helpful. And it's that like kind of getting into becoming aware of where we fall down then enables us to kind of heighten our consciousness, heighten our level of awareness, and ultimately to bring about change that makes us happier and the people around us.
So let's just go through the last 3. We already talked about the 5. Let's go through 6, 7, and 9, just so that everybody listening, if they know their Enneagram type, they kind of get like a little bit of an understanding of it. So 5 is me, the investigator. We talked about that already. So 6 is the skeptic then. So why is that? So that's interesting to me because the investigator and the skeptic kind of sound like similar archetypes. So what's up with the 6?
Yeah. And 2 things I want to say quickly, and we'll come back to the 4 because the 4 would be so upset. The 4 compares him or herself.
The 4.
Yeah. And I'm
so sorry.
But that's all about the 4. The 4 always gets skipped. The 4 never gets enough attention.
Oh my goodness. The 4. I'm so sorry.
The 4 compares itself to what other people have. The 4 is artistic and moody and feels things more than other people. And can, it's that idea of like the starving artist, or they tend to be the most creative. Um, I have numerous friends who are fours, and they're always wonderful and in pain. And so that's very much the four, but that was just funny that you skipped it. But the six, people call that, every system like has different titles for them. But the six, when I think of the six, I think that there's just an undercurrent of anxiety. Um, there's worry. There's making sure, the six needs to make sure that everything is okay all the time. The six needs to be prepared for all options. And the reason why the six is next to the five is because we have these things called wings on either side of us. So if you are a five, you lean more heavily on a six wing or on a four wing. And it sounds to me like maybe you would lean more on a six wing. I'm not sure. But the idea if the idea is that we are going to ultimately encompass all of the types, how we begin to do that is by looking at our wings on either side of us and figuring out which one we maybe lean into more than the other. I'm an 8, but I definitely lean into my 7. The 7 is the enthusiast, the optimist, the party girl, and that is definitely where I lean more than the 9, who is more easygoing. But anyway, back to the 6. So the 6 is often called the loyalist. So the 6 is that friend that you want to have, who will always be on your side, who is always there for you, who always returns your phone call because they are devoted. And so that is like that's the great part of 6s. It's like once you've got a 6, you always have your 6 friend. And then I said on the other side, they do tend to be deeply anxious. They have a lot of worry, and a lot of times that comes from in the childhood, perhaps not feeling secure or safe. So they've brought that through, having to where it relates to the 5 in terms of decision making and having to research things and to make decisions, that the 6 will it's more in a planning way. So if they plan for all the possible bad things that can happen, the bad thing won't happen. So that is, that's very much like the 6 MO.
That sounds like my mom. That actually sounds more like my mom. That's very interesting because it does have that sort of, like you said, it's like, I feel like the 5s maybe have that need to research because it's like, I want that answer, and there is the anxiety of not being able to find the answer, right? But then the loyalist, or sometimes called the skeptic, I guess, is more of a person who's like, I need to have all of the answers so that I'm ready for any situation that's coming up. Like, I need to MacGyver at any point here to get out. Is that right?
Yes, that's absolutely right. And they're also who you want to have with you, well, you may or may not want to have them with you on a trip, but, they're the ones who are going to make sure that they've packed everything to make sure that, in case anything happens, they will have the extra toothbrush. They will have, multiple guidebooks because, maybe one won't have the right information for that hotel. So at the same time, they can be a huge problem to travel with because they're always worrying versus think of them almost like living in the future versus really having a hard time just being present, being present in that moment and enjoying that garden or the way the flowers smell or the boat ride or just because they're thinking of, okay, well, yeah, I'm doing this now, but we got to make sure we know what's going to happen in an hour. So
I love that. That sounds like a generalized idea of like a dad mode. It's like I gotta have my Swiss Army knife. I've got to have my backup flash drive, even if we're going to nature. It's
right.
so interesting. So the 7, then I have that it's the enthusiast. What's the other? Is there another word for it?
Yeah, I mean, I think the enthusiast is really a really good way of describing the type 7. And it's funny because, people do people do sort of latch on to good and bad types, and it's like everyone wants to be a 7. Everybody wants to be the life of the party, and yeah, exactly. And and I have a couple of friends who are 7s, and the 7 is great, but where the 6 is living in the future, the 7 doesn't really want to think about the future that much unless it's really shiny and pretty on the other side. So the 7 is like living for today. Let's enjoy what we have. The cup is half full. It's never going to be empty, so don't worry about it. So that the 7 has the capacity to put off things that are like unpleasant, like paying bills, like cleaning the bathroom, like paying their taxes, maybe, because it's all going to be okay, and I just want to have fun. All of these are way oversimplifications, but it's just like when I'm thinking of like that person, or like in some ways it's almost like a caricature of a person, but that's who you would imagine. 7,
and that's the archetype, right?
Exactly.
That's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah. And 7s also can fall into addictions more easily. 4s can also, but because there's that sense of not worrying about the future, not like taking care of oneself in any sense of future planning, just having fun for what fun is now, which is wonderful. I mean, people who actually live in the present, I think, tend to be a little happier than those who are, agonizing about the past, which the 4s can do, and worrying about the future, which is what the 6s can do. So there are wonderful things about the 7, but then, as with everything, there can be challenges.
So you are an 8, and we talked a little bit about it, but 8 is the challenger. Is that right? 8? And you were saying it's a person who can take charge, a person who can potentially steamroll, but it may be because they know what's right, or they have the exactly how they want to see it, and we don't need to see it in any other way. Like, you can go do this, very delegating kind of experience.
Yeah, the 8 is also called the protector. And so the 8 is somebody who is a strong leader, knows what needs to be done when it needs to be done, is also somebody who is very concerned with taking care of the underdog, of making sure that those people who are not as strong perhaps are taken care of. So the people that they are loyal to, they will fight till the death. And as the mom of 2 boys who are now in their 20s, I'll tell you, if anybody screwed with my kid, they were in massive trouble. So that's an area, when I was in my 30s as a young mom, or, I guess my late 20s, early 30s, I didn't have as much self-control as I would have now. So that's some place that I've really evolved and grown. And so I would kind of like go off. If somebody's not treating somebody that I care about with respect and consideration, I would just like go after them. Part of that is also that I'm a native New Yorker, and I grew up in New York, and in the streets, and that's like kind of my go-to. So the combination, and you can say, does the cart come before the horse? Who knows? Is it growing up in New York in the kind of situations that I grew up in that made me more 8-like? Possibly. Maybe I would have turned out different if I'd been brought up on, like a little farm in, I don't know, Kansas or somewhere. It probably would have been a little different. But I do believe that there is nature and nurture, and that I do believe that we are born with a certain self-sense, and then that's either nurtured and developed and grown, or sometimes bad things happen to us. But I do think that there's sort of an innate type that we come into this world in. I don't think that it's all based upon how we were brought up.
9 is the peacemaker. Is that kind of like a pacifist in a way, or somebody who, well, goes with the flow, but maybe goes with the flow because they don't want to cause any disruption, or they don't want to upset anyone? Is that kind of how it means as like a peacemaker?
Yeah. They can, their vice is sloth. Each of the types has a vice that's attached to it. And they can be a little lazy. The idea of dealing with conflict is not pleasant for them. And so going with the flow, being more easygoing, sitting back, letting other people do the talking, that is one of the ways that they sort of manage through their world. On the other hand, everybody loves a 9 because, they agree with you. They're so easy to get along with. They're chill. They tend to not be like massive energy, and they are really good friends, and they're really devoted. And it's like sometimes people think of, Gandhi as a 9, perhaps, but I would argue that he leaned very heavily on his 8 wing because he was a powerful leader at the same time. So, and a lot of times people do say, Obama was an 8, or, they assign different celebrities, and, that's neither here nor there.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today, and you'll be hearing the next segment tomorrow. If you're enjoying this podcast, feel free to subscribe from whatever podcast platform you like the best, or subscribe to my Substack. That's where I post the episodes. And I will be putting more information in those blogs as opposed to the descriptions that you find on your podcast platform. So if you want to know more about the person, or you want to get more involved with my communication and what I put out there, use the description box below to navigate to my Substack. Until tomorrow, blessed be.